Today on Inspirational People, Inspirational Stories, my guest is Dr. Joe Vitale. Joe went from being homeless to becoming one of the most influential personal development teachers in the world. He's an author of over 90 books, appeared in the Secret film and book, created his own award-winning movie, Zero Limits, and has helped thousands, in fact probably millions, of high net worth clients and world leaders break through their limits. He's also a strongman, a magician, and at 71 years of age started MMA training. Well, I saw Joe first on the Secret film. I really enjoyed his insights and inspiration. And then I got to see him live in Dublin at the Pendulum Summit a couple of years ago, where he was absolutely inspirational as well. And I just knew I had to have him on the show. So Joe, very welcome to the show.
Thank you. It's an honor to be here. What a treat. I appreciate it.
Oh, my pleasure. And obviously, you know, the Secret film has been watched all over the world, and you have written so many books yourself, and obviously a law of attraction and gratitude man as such. I'd love to know, obviously, going back right to the start of your career as such, and right to the start when you were homeless and everything like that, what really drove you to this change of inspiration that you are now?
Well, I would say desperation. When you're homeless, you don't have any hope and you don't have any recourse, and you just feel like life is flatlining and you're not going to make it. For me, I was living in the Dallas Public Library in the late 1970s, and it was a good thing and a bad thing. The good thing was I was surrounded by books, and the bad thing was that was my home. I had no place to go. So I was pretty desperate, but I got into self-help, as I tell people today, because I needed help. I needed help. The first person that needed help in the self-help movement, as far as I was concerned, was me. And so I deep dived at the public library where I was sleeping on the floor and using the bathroom and getting their air conditioning and their water. I deep dived into, Napoleon Hill and all the greats that were coming out around that time, including psycho-cybernetics and the magic of believing, just doing my best to retrain my brain to find a way out of the mud hole that I had fallen into. So it all began with a quest to make a difference, to find happiness and salvation. And I wanted to be an author, so I wanted publication. I wanted to make a difference in the world, not just my life. I wanted to make a difference in my life. But by extension, I wanted to write things that made people happy, that made them go for their dreams. So it all began way back in the homeless days in the public library in Dallas, Texas.
Love it. I love it. And you have now become, I mean, you've written The Attractor Factor. You've been in the Secret film. You've written other books like The Miracle, Six Steps to Enlightenment. And you have lots of different kind of talents, shall we say, as well. But I'd love to know if we're speaking to somebody, let's say, if I go back 10 years ago or 15 years ago before my near-death experience, I had no idea really about the law of attraction. Maybe I did it naturally, I don't know. But if you were explaining to, say, like a business person what the law of attraction is and give them kind of steps to be able to make their life better and make their business better, what would you give them?
I would speak to them in terms of psychology. I would leave the metaphysics out because too much woo-woo will chase a lot of the business people away. And as much of me loves metaphysics and woo-woo and mysticism and spirituality, I have learned to communicate in a language that people will listen to. So I would talk in terms of psychology, and I would point out that science is repeatedly proving that you tend to attract into your life what you focus on. So if you are focused on bankruptcy or avoiding it, or you're focused on poor sales and what to do about it, or you're focused on the economy, or you're focused on being a victim in any way, shape, or form, you will tend to see that and recreate that in your life. And that has to do with the psychology of the mind. The mind is going to focus on anything that it loves, it hates, or it fears. That's basic psychology there. But for most of us, we focus on what we fear and we focus on what we hate. And as a result, we get more of it. So if I was coaching or mentoring somebody in business, I would say, let's move in the direction of what you want. You've told me what you don't want. You don't want to be struggling. You don't want to be poor. You don't want to have poor sales. You don't want to lose your business or just kind of limp along through life. So now, what do you want? And this is where you start to frame an intention. And intentions to me are commands. They're commands for your brain. You can go into metaphysics and say it's a command for the universe, but we'll step back a little bit and keep it in the realm of psychology and just talk about if you state an intention that is positive, that is vivid, that is clear, that is emotional, that is measurable, you have given your brain a command. You've given your brain a target, and your brain will take it on and start to look for ways to make it happen. All of this can be described as the law of attraction, but because so many people have problems with the phrase itself, law of attraction, oh, I'm thinking about money, where's my money? Well, they're probably thinking about money in terms of lack, and they're not thinking about it in terms of abundance. So again, I would talk to them in terms of psychology, and I'd break it down to, okay, you know what you don't want. Now let's focus on what you do want. And once you state that, the next step after that would be, what can we do now to move in the direction of creating it? And most people will say, oh, I don't know what to do, or I want the whole plan, or I don't know how to get to the end result. No, of course you don't know how to get to the end result because you're not there yet. You're at the intention phase, you're at the articulation phase. So, based on that, what's the most obvious baby step you can take today? And there's always one. And whatever that is, you take it. And
Hmm.
after you take it, the next one will become apparent because you took the baby step. I've often said it's like driving your car across the continent. If you're driving your car, you can't see the entire miles ahead of you, but you can see 100 yards or so, depending on whether it's daylight or night. And you drive that little bit, and the next thing you know is you can now drive a little bit more, and then a little bit more. And before you know it, you've achieved your destination slash goal. So those are top level things I would say.
Lovely. And I love that. And I totally get that. I think there's a lot of people who've obviously watched The Secret film and start, putting I am grateful statements where they say, I'm grateful that I'm a millionaire. And they say it over and over and over again. What's the
Right.
difference of when they're saying these affirmations over and over again to have, you mentioned about intention, where I think some people have these affirmations where they're saying them almost in desperation rather than
Right.
with intention. Can you
Right.
just explain about the importance of getting into the energy of what you
Yeah.
want rather than just wishing for what you want, if you know what I mean?
Yeah, your intentions, your affirmations need to be in the realm of believability. So if you're stating something like, I am now a billionaire, well, your mind is screaming at you that, no, you're not. You're not a billionaire. You're a liar. And you can't believe anything I say or anything you say because you're saying you're a billionaire and you're not a billionaire. It's very obvious that that's incorrect. And so what I advise people to do is to think a little smaller. I am a big thinker. I'm a zero limits thinker, but we got to start someplace. So think a little smaller than the quantum leap into billionaire status, but think in terms of a stretch. So if somebody is, I don't know, they've got $500,000 and they want to be a millionaire, then they can be saying something like, I am becoming a millionaire. The word becoming allows it to be settled into their brain, into their mind, because it's true. You are becoming it. But if you said, I am a millionaire, the red alert would go off or the bells would scream and it would say, no, you're not. You're not a millionaire at all. But becoming one, you can't deny, as long as you're moving in the direction of making it happen, that you could become one. So I am becoming a millionaire becomes credible and it becomes acceptable and it becomes doable. So that's where I would bring people back. Let me, if I may, can I tell a quick story?
Of course, yeah.
There was a homeless man. I don't even know where to begin with this. I was brought to Thailand the first time a few years ago, and there was a young billionaire there who said he owed everything to me and he wanted to reward me. He was paying me a lot of money to go and speak on stage. He wanted to pay for me to have a vacation there beyond the speaking on stage. And again, I didn't know this guy at all, but he was waving a lot of money and he was sounding fantastic. And, everybody seemed to like him. So I said yes. And I went there. He met me at the airport and told me the most amazing story. He had been homeless 15 years before that. He was standing in front of me as a 35-year-old billionaire, 35-year-old billionaire who had been homeless just 15 some years earlier. And I said, my God, what did you do what's your transformation? What's your story? And when he was homeless and he was sleeping on the beaches of Thailand, he reached out to a friend and said, I need help. I got no money. I got no food. I got nothing, no place to stay, no car, no nothing. And the friend said, I'm not going to send you money, but I'll send you a book, which is one of the most audacious and yet wonderful things anybody could do. And he sent him The Secret. And so my young Thailand friend receives The Secret and he's mad. He's mad. He's not grateful for a book. He's mad. He says, I want money. I need to eat. I need a place to stay. He sends me a book. He reads the book, The Secret, and his first thought is, this is bull. I'm going to prove The Secret does not work. And then he began to try The Secret, meaning he would state intentions like, okay, I want a cup of coffee and I want it to magically appear. And he'd visualize a cup of coffee. Somebody'd buy him a cup of coffee. Then he'd say, well, okay, that worked, but that was probably a fluke. How about lunch? Let's see if somebody will buy me lunch. Somebody buys him lunch. Then he goes, okay, maybe there's something to it. Maybe there isn't something to it. Let me see if I can get a job. Gets a job. Long story short, by those little tiny intentions and actions, he proved to himself that these concepts work. And then 15 years later, when he's at the airport in Bangkok, meeting me there, bringing me over there, he's 35 years old and he's a billionaire.
Wow, that is amazing. And it's so true, actually, because I got into all of this stuff when I listened to some of your colleagues who are also in the Secret film, and I talk about it myself. And I remember my daughter, 5.5 years ago, she was about 12, 13 at the time. She came into town with me. We were doing a daddy-daughter day, and she said, on the way back, she said, Dad, I love you. But all this stuff you talk about energy and gratitude, I think it's a load of rubbish. And I said, Sarah, let's put it to the test. It was during COVID, right? So it was the first year of
Mm.
COVID. And I said to her, I want you to visualize a friend that you haven't seen during the summer that you wish you did. And she did. And I knew this girl. So I visualized as well. I said, I want you to say out loud, I'm grateful that I'll see this girl, Emily it was, and I did as well. So we got back in the car. We drove the hour back home. She went into her house because I'm divorced. And suddenly I was waiting for my son. And then she came back out with a letter that had arrived 10 minutes before from this very girl. So I totally agree with
I
you.
love it. I
It,
love
it,
it.
it really works. And can I ask, because you also are massively into gratitude, and I know the Ho'oponopono. Myself and my partner, we use it with each other, especially when we have arguments where we say, I'm sorry, please forgive me, I love you, thank you. And we say it over and over again. It's very powerful. But can you describe to the audience a little bit about that and why the power of gratitude is so important in terms of manifestation as well?
Oh, there's so much to talk about and so little time. I've written over 90 some books, and so every now and then somebody will pull out one of the books to ask me to talk about it. And I keep thinking, we need a week to go through all of this. We're talking about the law of attraction. I'm telling you about my homeless to billionaire friend. We're talking about The Secret, and now we're going to talk about Ho'oponopono. Ho'oponopono was a Hawaiian healing modality that I was introduced to around 2004. The Secret was coming out and being filmed around 2005, 2006. And while everybody was jumping on the Secret bandwagon and talking about the law of attraction and visualize this and visualize that, I kind of moved beyond it because I had discovered this powerful form of inner transformation based on the four phrases you just mentioned. So Ho'oponopono, it's a Hawaiian healing system. It became famous because a story circulated that a man, a therapist, had helped heal an entire ward of mentally ill criminals by working on himself, not the criminals, not the patients. And what he did was use this Ho'oponopono on his inner perceptions. So what is it? This is a way of changing your inner reality, your inner view of everything you see on the outside, your perceptions of life. And you're using the four phrases you mentioned, I love you, I'm sorry, please forgive me, thank you, as a kind of open sesame, as a kind of combination lock, as a kind of prayer that you're saying to the divine, to God, to the universe, to the cosmos, to infinite intelligence, whatever you want to call that, higher power. And as a result of petitioning it, it realigns your inner perceptions and causes what you see on the outside, previously you were calling it a problem, to be resolved. This is how the therapist helped heal the entire ward of mentally ill criminals. I ended up finding the therapist, meeting the therapist, working with the therapist, doing 3 seminars over a 10-year period with the therapist, writing, I think, 4 books about this. The very first one, Zero Limits. And then most recently, I just came out with a movie called Zero Limits, which is about Ho'oponopono, the 4 phrases, gratitude, inner transformation. There are layers to this topic, Doug, that I don't even know where to begin with, beyond telling people, look, whatever's going on in your life, you can change it with the 4 phrases as a request or prayer to the divine, all working inside yourself.
Oh, and do you know what, Joe? I totally get you. It was because of what you did before, and I saw it, and I started utilizing these ideas that I read through your books,
Mm.
in terms of my healing. And I would get people to put their hand in front of their heart, visualize their kind of younger self, firstly say the Ho'oponopono to them, and then put themselves into their heart, and then anybody they
Oh,
needed to forgive. And I
mm.
did this in a seminar in UCD, which is University College Dublin here in Ireland, in front of 150 people. And we did it as a group. And afterwards, well, sorry, in fact, 5 minutes, and I hadn't even finished my presentation, a lady put her hand up and she said, "Oh my word, I've just had a text from somebody who I haven't spoken to in 5 years. They've just said, I'm sorry, please forgive me. Can we be friends again?" And somebody else
Wow.
afterwards said the same thing. So it just shows you what you're saying there is so true. And people need to realize that this actually, this intention and this practice can not just help you, but it can interlink energetically and help someone else out in the world as well. So it really
It
works.
is one of the most miracle-making, transformative, impossibly easy things I've ever come across in my life. And I've been around the block when it comes to all the different techniques and transformation technologies, and everybody's got some sort of angle, bell, whistle technique, system, strategy. But when I came to Ho'oponopono, I found here is the most simple, easy, instantaneous, no cost way to transformation that anybody could use. And
Mm.
after I wrote Zero Limits, which came out, I think, in 2007, the world kind of got turned on its ear because they learned about the method, they learned about the story, they learned that all of this was real. And then I started hearing from people, much like you had just described, who were trying it on everything. They were trying it on healing their animals or their relationships with long lost siblings, to their neighbors, to their work, to their business, to their finances, to tax audits. I mean, whatever you can think of, somebody's already tried it. And so many people wrote to me. I ended up writing another book called At Zero, where I told some of their stories. I also answered a lot of questions that I heard from the first book. And then I did another book after that called The Fifth Phrase. And then most recently, I guess the fourth book would be Zero Limits Living, before coming out with the actual movie. So I think what I'm saying here is I always go wow and all, like I'm so impressed and surprised, yet at the same time, I've been hearing these success stories repeatedly for 20 years. They're still coming in. I love you. I'm sorry. Please forgive me. Thank you. That's it.
Yeah, and do you know what? I had Dr. John DiMartini, one of your colleagues
Yeah.
from the Secret Film. He was
Mhm.
over here, and I picked him up from the hotel to take him to the radio station. And on the way over, he had this kind of like booklet, a bit like kind of a bigger version of this. And he was holding it, and I said, "Let me guess, John, is that your grateful statements?" And he said, "Yeah." And I said, "Do you do them every day?" He says, "Absolutely every day." I said, "Why? Surely you've set the intention." He goes, "Doug, I have maybe 80% of my thoughts are negative at times, like all of us. So we need
Yeah.
to keep seeding the subconscious brain with positivity
Right.
so that we stay aligned to that state of gratitude." And I thought that was brilliant.
That
Um,
is, Brent. That's a great reminder. You know, the therapist who taught me Ho'oponopono and helped heal that ward of mentally ill criminals, his name was Dr. Hulen, Dr. E. Haleakala Hulen. And he had this one line that I still remember and I still use. And I want to share it with everybody. He basically said, fall in love with everything. Fall in love with everything. And I keep singing that in my brain because it's a way of showing gratitude. If you fall in love with something, you are grateful for it. You're appreciating it. You're seeing the value of it, the heavenly quality of it, the spirituality of it. And it doesn't matter what it is. This is really important because a lot of people think, well, I'm not going to fall in love with that person because I don't like that person and I don't like this situation. I'm not going to fall in love with this situation. And that's the mistake. Fall in love with everything means to find gratitude for everything. I've
Mm,
been deeply influenced by the 1913 book Pollyanna, which was made in numerous movies, so people know the movie or they know the book. But
mhm.
Pollyanna was probably the greatest self-help book ever written from the fiction side. Though it was addressed to children, it's also for adults, and I've reread it many times. In Pollyanna, the young Pollyanna learns to play the glad game. And I've
Mm.
told people, play the glad game. The glad game is when you find something to be grateful for, something to be happy about, something to be glad about. And Pollyanna went on to say, and I affirm this, in every person, in every situation, there is always something to be grateful for. There's always something to be glad about, to go back to Pollyanna and the glad game. I think this is how you transform your life. It goes back to Dr. Hulen. Fall in love with everything.
I totally agree. I always say to people when I'm on stage, I say, like, how many people here have children? And like you get half the people putting their hands up, but how many people have ever given a child a present and they're not grateful? Do you feel like giving them anything else? And a few people,
Right.
I said, well, if you're not grateful for everything you have, your
Yeah.
subconscious mind isn't going to open you up to receive more, the good and the bad.
Yes.
And also, I think, we go through these dark times in life, and I think, the universe is a balance of darkness and light. And if you can be grateful for the lessons of the darkness, you can shine brighter in the light as well. And I
Yeah.
think that's where you can reframe the reality of those tough times into, you go through divorce, you could be grateful for it because you meet new people, you have new experiences in life.
Right.
I wouldn't be here in front of you if I was probably if I hadn't got divorced. So, the gratitude of being able to sit in front of amazing people like yourself and learn from you and grow from what you learn and help other people from what you learn is one of the greatest gifts that I could have that I'm grateful for. So thank you to you, Joe, and many other people like you. So you mentioned Zero Limits quite a few times, and I know that's got 27 different awards, and it's an incredible
Yeah.
movie. Tell people a little bit about the movie and where they can watch it and see it and everything like that.
Yeah, well, I'm in love with Zero Limits. I love the concept. I love the brand. I love the concept that's behind it. I love the idea that it's stretching all of us. If you really thought about your life with an attitude of zero limits, what if you had zero limits? What would you do? What would you go for? What would be your new intentions or your new dreams? And I also saw the power of a movie. When the movie The Secret came out, and of course I'm in it, I saw the whole world sit up and take notice, and the whole world get inspired, and the whole world learn about the law of attraction. And part of me was scratching my head, going, "This isn't new, folks. This is this has been out for centuries." But most people don't read books, which is where the
Mm.
law of attraction can be found. But they'll sit in front of a movie. So I remember thinking, wow, if people will watch a movie, I need to have a movie. And that planted the seed for me to think, okay, I need a movie. What would the movie be about? What would be the best thing to get across? And then, of course, after discovering Ho'oponopono, Dr. Hu Len, the power of the four phrases, his incredible story of helping to heal those inmates at a mental hospital for the criminally insane, I thought, all of this is the movie. This is it. And then over time, I found a movie director. He and his wife wanted to produce a movie for me. They were big fans. They knew about me from The Secret. They had read Zero Limits. They agreed that that's the one to make a movie on. Now, of course, during that time, a pandemic hit, which greatly slowed us down. And I went through my own divorce on top of the pandemic, which greatly slowed things down. I also lost my father, and I lost my mother, and I lost my best friend, and family member attempted suicide, all during divorce and all during a pandemic. So I was being tested and rolled around in life here. But I came out on the other side. Now the movie came out in 2025. It was nominated for 40 film awards. It's won 27 film awards so far. It is now on Apple TV, Amazon Prime, or anybody anywhere on the planet can watch it by going to zerolimitsmovie.com. Zerolimitsmovie.com. I think about 20 other authors, speakers, teachers, including John Assaraf, who was in The Secret, and Raymond Aron, and some names you may know and some names you may not. We all have our different stories, our different variations, our very different insights, all to help people think what would they do if they had zero limits. And after the premiere, which was at the end of July or something in Sacramento, people started talking about the movie being at a frequency of miracles. They said just watching it was clearing them and elevating them. And I have since heard, since the movie's now out there in the world, that there are some people who watch it every single day, which is incredible. I'm grateful and surprised, and geez, I don't even know how to process it, but my God, that's fantastic. So Zero Limits, the movie, Apple, Amazon, or zerolimitsmovie.com, and they can see it.
I love that. And do you know what? I can understand why the people are watching every day because I have a great story where I was speaking at the Institute Directors Global Convention. We were talking about sustainability and climate change. It was to do with India. So it was the Indian one. So surrounded by beautiful Indian people talking about sustainability and climate change. And I was thinking about my daughter because I hadn't seen her in a few weeks. And I left the conference, went to Heathrow Airport over in the UK, got on a plane, sat in the window seat. Within 2 minutes, a guy came and sat next to me with his daughter on his lap who started reaching out to me. I started chatting to him because I love kids, and he told me he was a consultant for sustainability and climate change, and he was right in the aisle seat with his wife, who was Indian. So I think watching your movie in terms of zero limits, by putting
Yeah,
yourself in the energy of something, you can bring
yeah.
more of it to you as well. And
Oh, that is so beautiful.
in terms of energy, and I know you're into it. I know you're very much like me in terms of we'll let's talk a bit of woo woo now. I know we said earlier on we were trying to keep
My
it
favorite
grounded, but
subject.
I know you're into the woo woo. So am I.
Yeah.
And words, I often say that your word is your wand, and the sentences you say can be the sentences you condemn yourself and others too. Do you think that it's very important to be very careful and cautious about the words that you use to be able to create what you want in life?
100%. Yes. Your words create a magic spell. You are a sorcerer in your own life, and what you are speaking is forming your reality. Now, for the vast majority of us, that's clueless. They don't know what they're talking about. They don't know what I'm talking about. They don't believe it at all. But I have since learned that yes, it does start with our thinking, but our next step is what are we speaking? Because what we're speaking is tending to lead into our behavior. But what we're thinking, what we're speaking, and our behavior is all sending a vibratory command to the universe, a kind of ripple. And that ripple is responded to by the collective being the universe itself. But you, I, everybody that tunes into your show, we're all part of this collective. When we send that ripple out, everybody touches it on an esoteric, deep, unconscious level. I have actually told people that the universe is like the wireless internet. We're all able to correspond with each other telepathically and influence each other, speak our realities into each other's existence because we're connected in this wireless way. If you go behind the 3D reality, I'm looking at you, you're looking at me, people are hearing us, they can look in the mirror and see themselves. That 3D reality, it's a mirage. It's like watching a movie. If you're watching the movie, you're looking at the screen and you get all caught up in the actor or actress and what they're going through. You forget momentarily that, wait a minute, that's not actually real. That's a projection on a screen. From a very metaphysical woo-woo standpoint, you and I are projections on a screen.
Hmm.
How are we creating this projection? Through our words, our thinking, our speaking, and our doing.
Yeah, absolutely. And taking the dial slightly up the notch of woo-woo. Obviously Einstein says that energy never dissipates, it just moves from one form to another. And having had the near-death experience when I was encapsulating this amazing feeling of love, energy, and connection, my belief, and I don't know if you believe in this as well, is that we do have reincarnation. Let's face it, why would you just come down as you or I? Why would you not come down as the king, the queen, the prince, the pauper, the invalid, the impian, to experience different perspectives of life so we
Yeah.
can understand the entirety of it? And whether that's true or not, I don't know, but it makes the game of life a bit of fun. So on the basis that this could be just one chapter of many lives, do you think that when we voice something like, I am grateful that my book sells millions of copies to touch millions of hearts and change millions of lives, do you think I need to be adding in, I am grateful that I, Doug Gordon, does that? Because it could be in another lifetime it might happen? Or do you think the universe understands and it's fine for this life?
I think the universe understands and it's fine for this life. I would break it down in the sense that the universe is not stupid. It knows who's speaking and it knows what the hidden request is, this is probably insightful here. I'm glad you brought this up because what we're speaking, those words, as important as they are, what the universe is responding to is the energy underneath those words.
Hmm.
So if we're speaking something, and as you mentioned very early in our conversation, there's a sense of desperation there. We don't really believe what we're speaking is going to come into reality. The universe is going to be responding to the belief of energy that's below the words. So the
Mhm.
words are conveying it, but underneath it is more of the truth. The authentic experience is, oh, I don't believe this is going to happen, or I don't believe it's going to happen to me. The universe is going to respond to that. By the same token, if I am saying something to the equivalent of, I, Dr. Joe Vitale, want 10 books of mine to be on the New York Times bestseller list, all at the same time, all by me, all in the same week. I don't think I need to say my name. The universe knows he's speaking, he's the one saying it, he's the one wanting
Yeah, absolutely. And it's funny how going back to what I said about John DiMartini. I know another friend of mine was speaking alongside Brian Tracy, who's another friend of yours,
it.
and Brian was speaking at this event. Apparently, was in the corner or at the back in the green room beforehand, writing some notes. The guy went up to him. He was a younger guy, really keen, and said, "Oh, Brian, can I say hello?" And Brian said, "Just give me a second." And he's finishing up his notes. And the guy said, "What were you doing?" And again, Brian said, "Oh, I was doing my I am grateful goals." And the guy said, "Do you do them every day?" And Brian said, "Yeah, absolutely. I want to keep my
Oh,
mind
nice.
set in that alignment as well." So
Mhm.
I love that. And in terms of yourself, I mean, like you've had a fantastic life. You've written so many different books, so many different successes, been in so many different movies. I know you've got one which we might mention later on, might be coming up soon as well. But at 71, I have to ask, what possessed you to start doing MMA training?
What a great question. Well, first of all, I'm now 72, and I'm now 72, and I just received my purple belt in MMA training, which is a lot of challenging training. The training challenges my mind, my body, my spirit, my ability to consider what's possible, everything. And that's largely why I entered it. When I turned 71 a year and a month ago, whenever it was, I had been looking around for a while to go, okay, I'm moving into that, older category here, 71. Didn't feel 71, still don't feel in my 70s, but the number's there. And I thought a lot of people, they'll pick up something like ping pong or pickleball or crossword puzzles or doing something to remain active and challenged. I am very active. I travel, I speak, I'm writing, I'm making music, I'm making movies. I'm obviously doing all this, but I wanted to make sure that I was doing all of it at a zero limits level. Let's use that zero limits level. And then along the way, I had met a martial artist who was a black belt. And it was one of those synchronistic things where the universe kind of put us both together. And the interest in being in martial arts, which I had 50 years ago, it got reawakened. And that guy, he stayed in contact. He started sending me little videos on his iPhone that were training videos like, Joe, try this kata and try these exercises and try these karate moves. And I would do them, then film myself, send it back. And after a while, I thought, this is going to take forever. I better just find a school. And there was one within walking distance of where I'm at in Northern California. And I took a deep breath and I went in and I signed up. And I've been going twice a week and I'll be going this evening, getting my training. And believe me, there is a fight in the parking lot outside of that school every time I go because it's me with myself in
Yeah,
my car going,
yeah.
why am I doing this? This is hard. And it is hard. And of course, if it was easy, it would be the point. So I'm doing it to fulfill a childhood dream. I wanted to be a karate person, martial arts person when I was a kid, wanted to be a mock boxer when I was a kid, and got swept up with homelessness, poverty, my life, all the different things that happened over 5 or 6 decades. And then I'm just cycling back around and kind of like coming full circle, completing that karma, if you will. And then the other part of it is I'm challenging myself. I publicly declared I'm going to have a black belt by the time I'm 75 years old. And one of the greatest gifts I got this last Christmas is my partner, Lisa, had, I actually cried when it was presented to me. She had one of those little bobblehead statues made of me wearing a gi and wearing a black belt. So I could look at it and holistically visualize the end result of being 75 with a black belt in Kovar's mixed martial arts.
Oh, I love that. You bring up something really important there, actually, and you did mention it early on, the power of visualization. I had Tasia Valenza on my show, and she actually testimonied in my book as well. Tasia was in Star Wars and Star Trek, and I also coached her husband, Harvey, and Harvey told me that Tasia had done a vision board about 20 years ago, so I don't know what it was. And they were moving into a new house, and Harvey went into the garage and found her vision board,
Oh,
and it was the exact house that they were moving into.
oh, that's so cool.
It just shows you how powerful. Tell me, what do you do in terms of your visualization techniques to help manifest your goals?
I'm a big fan of Neville Goddard. And Neville was the fellow who wrote a lot of books in the 40s, 50s, 60s. He left in the 70s. He was very metaphysical, very woo-woo-ish. He's become very popular today, partly because I've written about him so much. I even republished one of his books in 2005, 20 some years ago. So Neville talked about not just visualizing what you want, visualization works, and he would agree to that. He talked about feeling it real.
Mm,
Feeling was more important. He actually has a quote, and I have several autographed books by Neville, and one of them he signed this: assume the feeling of the wish fulfilled.
mm,
Assume the feeling of the wish fulfilled. And what he's referring to is assume that your intention has already manifested.
yeah,
Assume the feeling of your intention complete. So in my case, I would be imagining with feeling that I'm wearing my black belt, that I got my gi in the other room and I got a black belt in the other room, and that I'm walking around as a black belt. It's already complete. And that was the important thing with Neville. Instead of having the visualization being off in the distance, like one day I will be rich, one day I will have the Lamborghini, one day I will be a black belt, which is all great. You're moving in the right direction. He said it was more powerful to imagine it was already done. I already have the Lamborghini. I already have the black belt. I'm already rich. I'm already whatever. So this is what I do that I find far more powerful than just visualization. I've already stated the intention, like I publicly said, I want to have a black belt by the time I'm 75. But in my inner world, I'm already a black belt. I already have it. I've already received it. And I have enough little reminders, like the little statue that Lisa gave me, that's of me. There I am looking at myself wearing a black belt. So I embody it. That's probably another way to say it. I embody it. I feel it real, which is what Neville would say. Feel it real.
I love that. It's funny actually because I would do the same, and I was visualizing myself having a big house with a swimming pool in the basement, two-lane swimming pool with a jacuzzi, sauna, gym, and all this kind of stuff.
Nice.
And I was visualizing it over and over again and seeing myself. I actually saw myself swimming naked just so I know it would be me and my place. Um, but
Nice touch.
I ended up one of my top clients. He's a multimillionaire. He invited me to his house, and I went and he said, "Oh, would you like me to show you around?" So he showed me into the basement, and there was the exact visualization
Oh,
of
wow.
what I wanted, and
Nice.
I was like going. No, no, no. I don't. I was saying to the universe, I don't want to be in this house. I want to own this house
Right.
or
Want
a
it
house
mine.
like this. So my question related to that is, do you? There's differences in the law of attraction worlds where some people say, have your visualization, get into the feeling, say some affirmations with feeling, but then surrender to the universe how it happens? Or do you think you need to be very time specific and specific exactly about what you want? Those two seem to be a bit, controversial in terms of the law of attraction talk that I hear out there.
Yeah, and I can see both sides of that. My own view of this is you need a timestamp on it to increase your activity level. And
Hmm.
what I mean by that is if you say, oh, it'd be cool to have this one day, well, one day can take a very long time to get here.
Yeah.
If you say, much like I've been saying with black belt at age 75, that puts it's a time limit that increases energy. If I said I want to have a black belt one day, I might be skipping classes now and then, thinking,
Hmm.
I got all the time in the world. I don't need to go. But if I'm thinking I got to do it by 75 because I said I want to do it by 75, then I'm thinking, okay, Mondays and Thursdays, I'm at class. I'm at class because I have a time deadline set up. The next part of that, almost like a disclaimer, is I'm okay to be flexible around the goal. As we move closer to me being 75 and I find, oh, it's going to take a little longer, all right, then it'll be 76. I just move it. It's plastic,
Yeah.
but it's utilitarian. I use it enough to increase my energy, to put a little intensity around it. Not a desperate one. If I said I want to be 75 by next month or next year, I'd slash credibility. I'd abrupt the whole system. I'd cripple my enthusiasm. It wouldn't be believable. So I got to find that little balance of, okay, what is a stretch? It's within the realm of possibility. And then as I get closer to it, I got flexibility. I'm not going to go and make myself wrong or bad or give up on it if I don't get to it by 75. For now, because of where I'm at in this time and place and talking to you, I go black belt by 75, if not sooner.
Yeah, I love that. And what I love about that as well is because I think when people watch the Secret film first and they took it in the kind of lazy man way, they kind of said, "Oh, I can just sit there,
Yeah.
meditate, and visualize." But I think what you're saying is you need to take action. As Tony Robbins
Oh my
says, it's about
God.
massive action.
Oh God, I can get on a soapbox. Oh, when it comes to taking action, ugh. In the movie The Secret, one of the big criticisms that the movie got was that it didn't talk about taking action. And
Mm,
yet the reality is, I am in the movie saying you must take action.
yeah,
I even go as far as to say it's your job to take action.
yeah.
And because people don't want to hear it, they gloss over it, they fog out during it, they go get popcorn at that very moment. And the reality is, I'm telling you, this is how I've written over 90 books. I'm in over 30 movies, and of course, The Secret, and I have my own movie, Zero Limits. I have hundreds of products. I'm a musician. I have 15 albums out at this point. I'm
Wow.
doing the mixed martial arts and already got my purple belt, all of this. And I'm traveling, I'm doing all these other things. How? By taking action.
I love it. I love it. And do you know, I noticed there, they're all M's: manifestation, musician, mixed martial artist.
Motivator. Yes.
Motivator. There you go. You're the M. You're the M. Actually, and funny enough, I have an acronym in my book where it's "Make It Happen," which is mindset, actions, knowledge, and energy. In terms of
Yeah.
having the right mindset, motivating yourself and the people around you.
Yeah.
Actions, actually taking that massive action.
Yeah.
Knowledge, learning from books like yours and people like you, and then energy and putting massive energy. I always say the best form of energy is love, which is another acronym for lots of vibrant energy. And if you can get that into everything
Oh,
you do,
very good.
you'll
Very
you'll
good.
you'll, you'll get it done. Now, you have done so much. You've written so many books. I know you've got another potential film coming out as well called Inspired as well. Tell us a little bit about that one.
Oh, I have about six films coming out. I mean, literally, there's six different films coming out, and the one about Inspired is about inspiring ourselves and others to go for more than what we think is possible. It is a direct tie into Zero Limits as a brand and as a concept. But I think inspiration is my mission. I think that's my life purpose. I think that's what I'm here to do. I'm hoping on my tombstone they say something like, he inspired us. That's how important inspiration is. I also feel like I wouldn't be where I am today if I hadn't been inspired by a lot of people who had struggled before me and yet went on to achieve record-breaking success. And I would hear about them or read their books or read their biographies or autobiographies, and it would inspire me. And so the inspired movie is all along these lines of inspiring ourselves so we can go for more, but also inspiring others as leaders. And leaders doesn't necessarily mean as a business leader. It could be the leader of the family. It could be the
Mm.
leader when you're the third in three kids. There's different ways of looking at this. So Inspired is a very important movie that is probably going to be coming out next year. This year. We're at 2026. Yes.
Love it. Absolutely love it. And you've got a lot of life experience now and been successful in so many different areas. If you were to speak to your younger 18-year-old self, is there anything different you tell that young man to do?
Yeah, I've heard variations of that question in different interviews over the years. It's a great question. And every time I stop and think and try to come up with something different. But basically, I would say something to the effect of relax more.
Mm.
Yes, keep your goals. Yes, keep taking action. Yes, be persistent. Yes, surround yourself with people who are positive, who can keep you up as you keep them up. These are all important elements to success. But the biggie is really relaxing and trusting. I would even put it another way and say have more faith in
Mm.
yourself, more faith in other people, more faith in the cosmos, life, the universe. The more relaxation and faith can be there, the more clarity about what to do next will appear. So I'd say, hey, Joe, relax a little.
And you have worlds of wisdom, both in business and the holistic world, which I love. What would you say, in your opinion, because we all have our own opinions, but in your opinion, what would you feel for you is the true meaning of life?
I was thinking you were going to ask all kind of different questions besides that one. So that's good. You caught me by surprise here. The meaning of life. The meaning of life is discover your meaning for your life and to fulfill it by living.
I love that. Yeah. So connect to your heart self and find your true mission in life and go out there and achieve it as best as possible.
Live it. Yeah, live it.
Totally agree. I also think, though, as spiritual beings having a physical existence, it's important to enjoy life in terms of
Yes,
the five senses, being able to see the sun, to see the
that's right.
stars,
That's right.
hear the whistle of the wind, or a daughter or a son saying "I love you" and all that kind of stuff. That's the beauty, and I think that's where the gratitude that you talk about comes in, of being grateful for the small things, so that
Yeah,
when people like you and I and other people in business, we sometimes live off the hits of the dopamine, and I think it's important just to be grateful for the
yeah.
silence sometimes in life.
Oh, that's good.
For the
I tell people I use if they give me a chance to talk about it, I tell people almost every night if I'm not traveling, I'm in the hot tub. And I'm in the hot tub under the sky looking at the stars, basically saying thank you.
Mm.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. And I'm going to say one other thing here. I don't know how much time we have. We must be nearing the end. But I want to tell you that when you were talking about enjoying life and the senses and our sensory experience, our physical reality, I 100% agree. And I include things like earlier I said, I want a Lamborghini, and I changed it to I have a Lamborghini. I have a Lamborghini. I have a purple, rip roaring Lamborghini that I absolutely love. And in fact, there's shots of it, and I had a Bentley right before it, and there's shots of it in the movie Zero Limits. And I point out these are divine experiences. Buddha didn't go in a car because there weren't any cars for him. If he saw a purple Lamborghini, I think he'd hitch a ride.
Absolutely. And okay, we are coming to the end, and I think final question then. So, let's say you've mentioned so many different absolute gems, but if there was something that you haven't mentioned, and I was to give you a stage in front of 10,000 people, and we were to beam it out on this podcast to 8 billion people around the planet, it was your 110th year, it was your final legacy message. What message would you want to leave to the world?
Oh, Doug, I'm taking that in. That is such a beautiful question. I mean, I'm taking in the weight of that, like that being real. that would be the message to be beaconed out to the universe. What in the world? And for whatever reason, for whatever reason, I guess I'm going to be, there's a couple things I could say.
Tell us both if you want to. Yeah.
Yeah, well, thank you for that. Which is great too, because I do believe in having both. I tell people when you have a choice, why don't you just get both of them?
Yeah.
Whatever it happens to be. If there's a world of possibility there, you don't have to make a decision, one yes, the other no. What about finding a way to do yes, yes? So
Absolutely.
there's one little thing you can beacon out with that comment. I'm a big fan of Yogananda. In fact, behind me over there is a bust of Yogananda. He wrote Autobiography of a Yogi and very famous. He was up in, the early last century. But he had this quote where he said, "Learn to be secretly happy.
Mm.
Learn to be secretly happy despite circumstances." And when
Mm.
I first came across it, I thought, that's actually brilliant. And then
Mm.
I thought, that's really the goal, is to participate in life without being affected or wounded or traumatized or destroyed by life. And I mean,
Mm.
this is the ideal. This is a meditation. This is a way of living that is a challenge. But I've taken it on and I absolutely love it because I'm thinking to myself, I'm secretly happy. I don't have to tell anybody I'm happy because some of them won't believe it. Some of them won't buy it. Some of them might want to squelch it. So it's my secret. I'm secretly happy. So what Yogananda is saying is learn to be secretly happy no matter what. And that's what I would offer to people is you do have a choice. Yeah, you can definitely be upset by whatever just took place, but you can also go, all right, we'll handle it. There's a way to get around this or dissolve it or solve it. Meanwhile, I'm secretly happy.
Oh, I love that. Hey, you said there was two though. What was the other one?
You're going to go for the goal here, huh? You're going to go for the gold. Doug wants it all, which I don't mind at all. I love and admire that you're doing that. Well, the other thing is another quote, and I absolutely love this quote. I told you I went through a divorce too, and
Hmm.
during the divorce, Stoicism really helped get me through it. I'm not a big fan of Stoicism because I think there's some things that were good thousands of years ago, but not necessarily still true today. But Seneca, who ended up being one of my spiritual guides during this tough time, he had this amazing quote that I had to read and reread and then think about, and I've made videos about it. Seneca said, "You have the power to make things seem hard or easy or even amusing.
Hmm.
You have the power to make things seem hard or easy or even amusing." Now, I was going through a divorce when I first came across that. And I thought, okay, the default here is hard. Yeah, it's
Hmm.
real easy to see this is hard. But Seneca is suggesting maybe I can see it as easy. And boy, that took a big mind shift. And I thought, okay, what if there was a way of looking at this differently? And I
Mm.
started to look like, well, I got support, I got the attorneys, I got, I'm not alone. I'm going through this during a pandemic, which, good thing is I don't have to go to court and actually go one-on-one with people. Everything's done over Zoom. And so I thought, well, there is a way of looking at this as easy. But Seneca also said you can even look at it as amusing. And I thought, how do you look at an ugly 3-year divorce during a pandemic as amusing? And then I saw an interview with Jerry Seinfeld. And Jerry Seinfeld said he lives for humor. He lives for the joke. He says, if you're not telling a joke, why are you talking? He says he doesn't want to hear anything else. And he was interviewing another comedian, and they both said, when there's a tragedy in the world, they have the jokes that night, but they don't tell the jokes because they know people aren't ready to hear them. And that opened up the door to think, oh, there must be jokes and humor and one liners in this divorce experience that I hadn't been thinking about and I hadn't been looking for. And that opened up the third door of way as a perception. So that would be the next gift that I would give people is Seneca's advice. You have choice, folks. You can look at whatever you're going through as hard, and you probably are. You can look at it as easy. That's a choice. You can look at it as amusing, and that's also a choice, though at first glance it may seem like a jump.
Yeah, I love that. Do you know, it reminds me, Joe, when I was going through my divorce, it was about, or my separation initially, it was 7 or 8 years ago now. And I remember I was over in London, we were living in Dublin, I was on business. I rang my then still wife and I said, look, do you really want to go through this? We've got two beautiful children, we love them, and I don't want to hurt them in any way or form. And she said, no, this is the right time. And I put the phone down and I've been listening to an audiobook of, I'm sure you know him, Dr. Wayne Dyer.
Of
And
course.
I put the headphones back in, expecting to hear Wayne. And it was Michael Jackson playing. She's out of my life now. I don't know whether to laugh or cry. And I was like, that's the universe telling a joke now on me.
That is hilarious.
But
What a
also,
great example.
well, I give you even better. So, well, it was kind of linked. I kind of said to the universe, I said, okay, is this a sign or just a fluke? Show me another sign. And literally the next song. So on our wedding day, we had the Enrique one, You Can Be My Hero, Baby. And it was Enrique again was the next song, but the song title was Take Back Your Love. So at
Mm,
that point, I was like, okay,
wow.
thank you, universe.
Yeah.
And that's the sign. One, to help me because I was crying, but two, also to say no. And I think sometimes when people go through divorce, we need to remember that we were first at one stage in love with that person.
That's right.
So
That is exactly right.
love them for the gratitude that you went through that experience. But I also believe that universe that sends people to us, and sometimes almost the soul contract is finished and it's
Yeah.
time to go on to the next lesson. So it's about being able to let go with love and move on to the next. And I think that's something obviously you've done now, and I have as well, which is beautiful. So
I
Joe,
agree.
I literally wish we could talk for longer because I would be here all day with you because the
I
gems and the
I
stories
love it. I
are
love
just
it. I love you. You've got great questions, great energy. You're very attentive, and of course, you have your own input, your own insights, your own sharings that are helping everybody as well. So thank you for what you're doing in the world and how you're touching people, and thank you for including me in this show.
no. And thank you, Joe, so much for what you put out in the secret film, along with all those other wonderful people that actually helped me on my path today. So from my heart to your heart, massive gratitude.
Thank you, thank you, thank you.
My name is Doug Gordon, and you've been listening to Dr. Joe Vitale on Inspirational People, Inspirational Stories. I'll be back next week with another inspirational guest. In the meantime, if you need to get in touch, please contact me at doug@dougdgordon.com. From all us here at the team of the show, I wish you a truly inspirational week and look forward to speaking to you next time. Bye for now.